Spring Framework Training. Welcome to our channel. Today we will learn about the Spring Framework. I will introduce you with the famous Spring Framework. If you have not subscribed our channel, please subscribe it now. So let's get started. Spring Framework Overview. Spring Framework is an open source framework originally developed by Rod Johnson based on book Expert 121 J2EE Design and Development, October 2002. This framework is licensed under the terms of Apache License version 2.0. Now we will see what is Spring Framework. Spring Framework is an open source Java-based application development framework extensively used for developing the enterprise applications. Spring Framework is very popular lightweight framework used by developers around the world to develop and deploy enterprise-ready business applications. Spring Framework is a modular framework which can be used to configure declarative transaction management, dependency management, mailing facility, and other functionality in the application. This framework is also used to manage and configure the persistence layer in application. Spring IOC. Spring Framework is an IOC container in Java. The term IOC stands for Inversion of Control. This framework is inversion of control and dependency injection framework. For example, in an application which needs database access, you can define the database connection as one of the dependency in your code. Then configure the database connection in Spring configuration file. The Spring configuration file is mostly the XML file. Spring Framework will create the JDBC connection object in runtime and connect to the database. This database connection will be passed to your code where you need the connection. This way, Spring Framework works as a dependency injection and inversion of control framework. Spring Framework also has the AOP framework, which is an implementation of AOP Alliance interface in Java. Spring AOP is used for modularizing the cross-cutting concerns in aspects. Spring AOP is a proxy-based runtime framework which is very easy to use in Java programs. The Spring AOP takes the full advantages of Spring IOC container. Spring Framework is modular framework with around 20 modules. Spring Framework is a lightweight framework. Why is Java Spring Framework called a lightweight framework? The term lightweight is a concept through which we are defining the weight of a framework. If a framework is lightweight, then it will have minimal impact on the application. Spring Framework is lightweight framework as it has minimal impact to an application. So there is a minimal code change if the framework is implemented on the existing code. Reason for lightweight. Spring comes with modular approach and it is divided into 20 modules such as Spring Core, Spring JDBC, Spring MVC, Spring Data, Spring ORM, etc. Users can selectively use the modules in their project. Why we should use the Spring Framework? Spring Framework is a modular framework and it allows you to selectively use the components you want. Spring Framework is non-invasive. It means that it does not force the developers to implement or extend the Spring API in application. Spring is lightweight framework and it is based on the POSIX classes. Spring Framework knows how to inject the dependency in runtime. Spring Framework is popular due to its simplicity. Spring Framework comes with testing frameworks. Spring Framework is loosely coupled framework and you can use the component you want in your application. Spring Framework was initially started to ease the development of J2EE based application by providing the environment, API and valuable services. Spring is matured framework and currently it is one of the most used framework in Java. It allows many other frameworks to work together in a coherent manner. Modules of the Spring Framework. Spring Framework is collection of 20 loosely coupled submodules. You can consider the Spring Framework as a collection of frameworks in the framework. Important modules of Spring Framework are Core. It is for inversion of control and dependency injection. Then AOP. It is aspect-oriented programming framework. DAO, the data access object support, transaction management, JDBC abstraction. So it is used for database related functionality. ORM, it is the object relational mapping, data access integration layer for JPA, JDO, Hibernate and IBATIS. MVC, the model view controller implementation for web applications. Remote access, authentication and authorization, remote management, messaging framework, web services, email, testing, etc. are other modules of Spring Framework. Spring Module Organization. In the Spring Framework, all the modules are organized into separate packages. These packages are Spring Core, Spring DO, Spring Context, Spring AOP, Spring ORM Web, Spring Web and the Spring Web MVC. So how to create a program in Spring? To create a program in Spring, first of all we will create a simple bean class. It's a simple POSIX class with a string message as a variable which is private variable and it has getters and setters. We will use the Spring to create the object of this framework and pass it to our program. So let's see the configuration file of a Spring. So Spring configuration file is simply the XML file and to define a bean we have to use the tag bean then ID. ID is the unique among this XML file and the class name. So the class name here is net.roseindia.basicbean. So this basic bean we developed here. Now how to run the example? You have to download the Spring library files and include in the project. I will show you this step in a hands-on exercise. So this is the example code. We are creating the bean factory, then getting the bean from the bean factory. So to create the bean factory we have to use class path XML application context and pass the XML file. In our case it is context.xml. The next line is to get the bean. So we'll call the method beanFactory.getBean and pass the name of the bean and it will return the bean. Now we'll have already instantiated bean and we can call the message on it. Now let's proceed for the hands-on exercise. In the hands-on exercise, we will show you how to create the project, add the library files, and then run the project. Hands-on practice. Now I will explain you how to create a project in Eclipse and run the example code we just discussed. So let's see how we can run the example. The first Spring example. So first of all, we'll have to create the Pojo class. So this is the Pojo class in a Spring project. Then it has got a variable, then setters and getters. So after this, we need to create a XML file, that is context.xml. So this is the XML definition. Then we need the bean schema here. So all details are here. The important thing is the definition of the bean. So bean ID is basic and the class is net.roseindia.basicBean. So Spring Framework is going to create the object of this class with the name basic in the runtime, and from our program we'll get this bean and call the method. So this is the line to create the bean factory. So class path XML application context, which we are going to use, and pass the context.xml file, and after that Spring Framework will create the bean factory. And to get the bean, we will call the method getBean and pass the name of the bean. So we have the bean object here, and now we can call the methods defined in the bean. So if you run the example, it should print the message run as Java application. So it is initializing the bean factory using the loading XML bean definitions from class path resource, that is context.xml, and it is initialized. Then here we are calling the method, and it is printing the Spring is simple. So I have changed the message. So I have changed the message. Now you should print another message. So we have provided you the URL in the video description for downloading the source code of this project. And these are the library files that we need in the project. And I am using the Maven for dependency management. So for this project, we need the Spring Core, Spring Beans, and the Spring Context. So all the library will be downloaded and included in the project by the Maven. So you can download the source code of this example from our website. Thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. You can visit our website roseindia.net for more tutorials on Java, Spring, Hibernate, and many other frameworks.